So assignment 3, which again is your last Max assignment, is actually to create a patch using audio files, okay? So I have uploaded for you a folder with a bunch of drum samples that you can use. You can also use any audio you want, if it's up to you. I uploaded this folder just for convenience. But what we're going to do is build a synthesizer, or sorry, we're going to use a Max patch that plays audio files, okay? You need to implement the mute, reverb, and delay, and you need to trigger your samples using the Metro object. So, and then at the bottom, it's really cool, you know, the idea of creating a Max patch where you can play drum beats, right? Or you allow some way to customize it so that you can build a drum machine, which I'll give you the basics of how to do that. But the idea, most of this is about sequencing, right? Figuring out a way of triggering specific bangs at specific tempos or timing. So let's take a look then at how we would do this. So first of all, in order to use an audio file in Max, we have to first use what's called a buffer. So I'm going to use a buffer tilde object, okay? And then I have to give this a name of some kind. And the name can literally be anything. Like, again, just like with the sends, it needs to be a unique name, right? So I'm going to call this kick. Oops, kick. And I'm going to also make a 2 after it. And that's going to designate that this buffer is stereo. And it's 2-channel. And it's just called kick. Okay? Now, I'm going to make another one called snare. Oh, I just hold down option drag. Yep, it's super useful to be able to option drag things. So, and again, you don't have to, I'm making a video of this. Please don't feel like you have to do this now. You can do it later. So I have 2 buffers now that are going to be kick and snare. And now I'm going to attach a message box. Now remember, a message box is hitting M as in Michael, and then typing replace. Okay, you can see how it looks different than an object. And I'm going to connect a message box that says replace to both of these. Okay? So the first one, let's just do the kick to start with. I want to fill this buffer with a file, with an audio file that I'm going to use. Okay? So what I have to do is I just lock this down and I Command E, right? Hit replace, and what will happen is it's going to pull up a dialog window. So now I'm going to go to my folder, which is on the desktop for me, and I'm going to grab this first audio file called kick. It's on My Courses. You can put anything in there for now. Just grab an audio file from somewhere. But if you want, it's on My Courses. There's a zip file there with a bunch of audio files for you to play with. Okay? It's on the actual assignment. There's a zip file connected to the assignment 3. Is it? Oh, well that won't work. Sorry, now it's visible. So refresh, and it'll probably pop up. Max assignment 3. And then you can see there's a zip file connected to it called drum samples, right? So just, you can download that, unzip it, and then you have a little folder of some audio files to play with. Again, for this assignment, you can use anything you want. They don't have to be drums at all. It can be sounds of bleep and bloops. It can be cows and cats and dogs, whatever. Whatever floats your boat. Okay? Make a drum beat with cows and cats and dogs. So, if I then hit replace, right, I can actually upload this audio file, so I can grab it. I can also go to the Finder and go over to my drum sample, right here, kick 1, and drag and drop it on top of the buffer, and it will load it. Okay? See what I did? So over here, let's go to snare. I'm going to grab snap number 1, which is a finger snap, and drop it on the snare. And now that is loaded in the snare. Okay? Now, you should be able to double click on this buffer and it's going to pop up as an audio file like this. So that's your way of checking that you have a buffer loaded. Okay? Sure, whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Could be anything. And then if I click on snare, you'll see there's another audio file. In fact, oh, this is 2 snares apparently. 2 snaps. And again, remember, it doesn't have to be a snare, right? I just called it could be called elephants. It could be called giraffe. It doesn't matter what the name is as long as it's unique name, right? Okay? So now let's figure out how to make this make sound. So Max, just so you're aware, has a bunch of different objects that make sound, that play audio files. One of them is SF play tilde. That's one. We also have just play tilde. We also have groove tilde. All of these can play an audio file called C for comment. Okay? And here's a really cool thing too. Watch this. If I make an object called play tilde, right? If I right click on this and go to the help file at the very top, oops. If I go to this exclamation mark right here, it will show me other objects that are related to play. Right? So here's groove, here's record, .wave file. I don't know what that does. Actually, I've never used that. SF play, I'm surprised isn't there. I don't know why it's missing. Maybe it's also been phased out. It's possible. But anyways, all of these things are related to the play object, or they're like something that's almost the same as play, which can be super useful for finding other things. Okay, so we're going to use actually groove tilde. And there are 2 things that we need to write in here. First of all, the groove tilde is going to play an audio file. I'm going to play the kick audio file. So I have to put groove tilde space kick and then say 2. And that's telling this to play the audio file called kick. And it's also stereo. That's what the 2 stands for, right? It's a left and a right. So again, if you're wondering too, like, how does this work? How does the groove work? What does it need to make sound? I can go to the help file, right? So if I go to the help file, a fair amount of you are doing Max projects for your final. Like, I really recommend you get to know these help files because they're super useful. It'll tell you how something works, right? I can connect a loop 1 object to it. I need sig tilde to play sound out of it, and that's about it. Okay, so I'm going to go over here, new sig tilde. And what this does is it designates how fast the audio file is going to play. Okay? I also need to trigger this audio file. So I'm going to make another message hitting the M key like Michael and hitting 0. All right, and I'm going to connect that to the groove object. And I forgot this too. After sig, I'm going to write a 1 decimal. Okay? The 1 is designating that it's playing normal pitch, normal speed. Okay? So from here, I'm almost ready to make sound with this. Okay? What I'm going to do now is, of course, use gain tilde, 2 of these. Because remember, this is stereo, so we don't want to lose the stereo signal. So this is right out the left output, and this is the right output of the sound. Okay, I'm going to connect these like this. Man, I feel really bad because I guarantee you, most people showed up for this class and they couldn't find it. Yeah, and it's
walking around that square back there for like 10 minutes.
Oh, really? So, I mean, it's too late now. If anyone was here, they probably have left at this point. At least we have this video, right? That you can check this to do the assignment. So, anyways, then I'm going to grab the mute button. So let's go in here into my files, grab the mute button, open it up, copy and paste it here, right? And then connect it. So I'm going to connect this to the left inlet, this to the right inlet, right? And now when I turn up the volume, I should be able to hear my kick drum when I turn this on. Now let me make sure my outputs are correct. Yeah, there's the... Oh, turn on the audio driver. And then we don't have sound. Why is that? Let's try again. There it is. Okay? So what I'm doing here is clicking on the 0, right? That's basically telling the object to play from the first sample, from the very beginning. Okay? And what's crazy in here is if I actually connect like a message 1000, actually this probably won't work. Let's try 200. It's going to start at the 200th sample. Nope. So this sample is so short that it should have 200 samples. But anyways, that's how you do it. Pretty simple, right? So you can imagine if I want to add more buffers, I need to make more of these, right? So let me show you something else that we can do. Let me add the looper on here just for funsies. I'm going to make a toggle, right, by hitting T for toggle. And then let me show you a bit of code that's really useful. If I write a message box, again, M for Michael, and then loop $1. So loop $1, if I connect this to the groove, the way this works actually is like this. As you can imagine, the toggle is actually posting a 0 or a 1. That's what it does, right? So if I do a $1, the loop is being followed by a 0 or a 1. So that's telling the looper to either be on or not. Yeah? So if I want to loop the sound, I click the toggle. If I don't, I unclick it. And basically that replaces the $1 with a 1, right? So now it should sound, it's going to repeat over and over and over, right? So, and if I do this, if I connect a float box to the sig tilde, watch what happens. What is the 1 again for sig tilde? Do you remember? I know the music next door is super distracting. I'm sorry. Very dramatic too. It's like our music. It's like a coding class soundscape. It's our soundtrack. So what does the sig tilde, the 1 do? Do you remember? I mean, I explained it at the very beginning. It's the speed and pitch that the sound is played at. So 1 is normal pitch, normal speed. 0.5 is half as slow and an octave lower. And if you can imagine, then 2 is an octave higher and twice as fast. So listen to this now. Oh, I muted it. So that's my kick drum, right? Just being transposed. And because it's looping, it's just playing that audio file faster and faster and higher, right? So, and this can be really cool if you're doing all sorts of funky effects with something or you want to tune something or whatever. It can be neat. So as you can imagine then, if I want to make another sound playing, how do I make the snare play? What do you think? Any ideas? How do I make the snare play? I have to make a whole nother groove, right? So I just copy this whole thing here and then call this snare, and that's it. And now, if I also connect these to left and right, it's going to play this audio file. If I loop it, right? Turn up the volume. Oh, why is the driver failing? I did load a buffer, yeah. Okay, that doesn't work. Huh. Oh, it's muted. Why is it muted? I thought I unmuted it. There we go. So if I turn off the loopers, this is my snapping, and this is my kick drum. Right? So anyways, there are just so many ways now. I mean, you can make, obviously, you can make 40 buffers with different sounds and use them however you want to use them, right? How would I make this be in tempo and do something like drum beat-ish? Metro, yeah, how? What do you think? I need to basically build a sequencer, right? So let's take a metro. Let's do 500, okay? That's a tempo of 120, which is actually 2 beats per second, right? We'll give this a toggle. And then the easiest way to do this, honestly, is, well, first of all, there's several things you could do. Imagine we wanted to do something incredibly simple, like kicks and snares. Kicks on every beat, snares on 2 and 4. Something super simple like that, right? Let's do this. I'm going to use a counter and count 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? And then I'm going to use, select. Select. Just so you know, too, SEL is also select. It's like a shorthand for select. So, I mean, you guys know what this is going to do, right? We'll just do bangs on all these so you can see it. Great. So there are other ways to do this, but this is kind of one of the easiest. So I'm going to do something interesting, right? I'm going to make a send to kick bang, I'm going to call it. All right? And we're going to I'm going to use another object so that I can kind of program this a little bit. I'm going to use the gate. What do you think a gate does? Jalen, what do you think? No, it's not a noise gate. It works similarly, though. It's like a classic gate. It either prevents the data from coming in or doesn't. That's what a gate is doing, right? It has a threshold. Yeah. So what this is going to do is gate the incoming message. So the incoming message is coming in here, and then I'm going to use a toggle and just say yes to playing the first note or no to playing the first note. And that's it. So check this out. We can do 4 of these underneath all of these. I'm going to connect each of these to here. Let me scoot these out underneath these so they look a little cleaner. And then connect all these gates to the kick. Okay? So when I lock this, if I want to hear a note on the downbeat, I click this button. Okay? Now, what I need to do now is receive the kick bang on the 0, right? Let me give this a lot more room too, right? This is all getting very jammed up in here. Let's drag this way down. Put this here. So if now I should see a kick only on the downbeats when I turn this on. What? What is happening?
It's supposed to be counter 1, 4.
Oh, thank you. Man, I'm getting rusty in my... I don't max as much as I used to. Yeah, so now you can hear it. We're only going to get kicks on the downbeats, right? So we can do the exact same thing with the snare, right? I'm going to actually grab this exact same array go down here, connect the same bangs out here. Right? So now if I want to hear snares, oops, let's change this to snare bang, right? And then I have to add the snare bang over here, receive. There we go, man. Now we're rocking. Right? So you could, for instance, if you wanted to make this like a real drum machine, you could take these, add them to the presentation, right? And then in your presentation mode, you can make a comment. Oops. Like comment, call this kick. And then call this snare, right? Okay? So if I want to do like, I could do something like this too, right? Obviously. So this is kind of like your poor man's drum machine. Is definitely probably the simplest possible drum machine that you could make in here, right? What if I wanted to have 16th notes running twice as fast? What would you suggest? How would I do that? First of all, I need another buffer, right? So let's call buffer this one hi-hats, HHS. And then down here, I need another one of these, right? I'm going to change all the variables here. So let's change this to HHS for bang, and then HHS under the groove, right? And then obviously I need to connect this also to the outputs. Yeah? And then, so first of all, we want to move these twice as fast. So there's a problem already, right? What's my problem with moving these twice as fast? Anyone tell me? I mean, it's not really a problem. I can solve it really easily, but how do I get notes twice as fast? I'm probably going to need another metronome that's running twice as fast, right? Because my note value, the lowest note value I have right now is 500 milliseconds. So if I want to get 16th notes or quarter notes, I'm going to have to go have a metro at 250, right? Yes, basically. So, well, I'll show you tempo in a second, actually. So I'm going to actually grab this whole bit here. This is all we need right out here for the hi-hats. I mean, I cannot stress enough that just option dragging stuff it saves you so much time, right? Because you're copying the same code, you're just changing up some of the features in it. So I'm going to go up to my metro here. Let's make this twice as much, right? So I'm going to make this counter 8. Let's add 8 on here. 6, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8. I'm going to double these, right? Because I need twice as many gates now. We're going to connect all of these to here, like that. And then I'm going to connect all of them to this down here, this gate down at the bottom. Okay? And then obviously this can't be called kick bang. It needs to be called HHS bang, because that's sending the hi-hat bang, right? And then the last thing is that my metro needs to be 250. Okay? How am I going to trigger these two metronomes at the exact same time? Share a toggle. Exactly. Right? So we have one toggle over here, and I'm going to run it into the other metro. And now this should work pretty easily. Let me turn up my hi-hats and then turn that on. Now, right now, I don't have any hi-hats playing. And I'm muted again. Okay, it's not working. Oh, tell me why it's not working.
There's no audio for the input buffer.
There's what?
Is there an audio buffer?
No, I never loaded a hi-hat buffer, right? So again, I'm going to hit replace and then go up to your hi-hat 1, and now it should work. Right? So, I mean, it's not the most compelling music you've ever heard, but that's basically how you would build a drum machine, all right? Let me just show you something. Max. Here it is. So I built a fairly complicated drum machine that's using this exact same technology, this same exact coding. See this? So let me load something up here. I don't think this is going to work. This thing is so old, and I haven't used it in a long time. But I did do like a, when is the last time I used this? Did a recital many years ago with this. So you can see here, this is how you select specific notes, and when you hit play, I don't think this is going to work, but let me try again. Just so you can see the possibilities with a drum machine, right? Oh, wait. Oh my gosh, recital, machina, here we go. This isn't making sound. I'm not surprised. Well, all these are muted. So anyways, you can see how this works, right? And I'm using the exact same type of thing to build this thing. Like, if we go in here and look at the gates, oh man, this is impossible to read. Just want to show you one thing, and then I'll be done with this. If I can find it. Where is it? Where's the array? Quarter note, quarter notes. Oh, here they are. They're out here. Here we go. Play quarter notes. So see this? This is exactly what I just showed you, right? I'm using a selector with a bunch of gates, and the gates are being transferred into those little boxes that are different color, that are green or black. So I'm using the exact same basically way of coding to make that complicated drum machine. Then there's all these possible effects that you can use and all kinds of stuff on there. Whoa. So anyways, so this is just a start, right? There's so much you can do with this. I want to mention one other object too that can be really useful. So how would we change tempos here? Like, what if I wanted to set the tempo? First of all, we have a problem with it being in milliseconds. It's really not very useful, right? So there's a little bit of code, if I can remember it correctly. Let me try. I think it's this. Divide. Nope, I think it's backwards. $120. Oof. By 60,000. Yes. So see this little thing that I just made right here? If I if I write in 120, that's a tempo, the tempo of 120, that means each beat is 500 milliseconds. Okay? If I want to have 80 as my tempo, that means every beat is 750 milliseconds. Okay? So this is really nice now. I can basically have a tempo box, right? And then how could I set my two metronomes to be correct every time? How could I set my tempo, my metronomes to be correct? So if I want the tempo to be 80, how am I going to make this metro twice as fast? What? No. I can do either. I can multiply by 0.5 or I can divide by 2, right? Same thing. So this tempo is going to go straight into the 500 box, and that's going to turn the tempo here into 750. And then the other one, we'll just use divide. We're going to divide by 2 period as a decimal and connect that to there first and then into the metro. So now every time, if I put 80 in here, right, it's going to half the tempo in the other box. All right, and you know, this can be really useful. If you want to, for instance, I want the 80 to be way bigger, right, because it's my tempo. So I can actually blow it up with the inspector, right? I pull the inspector up by hitting Command I or clicking on it and saying Open Inspector. So now it's slower, right? I can change this to 200. And it's always going to be correct, right? It's always going to be correct. Now, one thing we haven't really talked about here is that your counters can get off. All right? Like, the counters don't reset to 1 every time you stop it. So there's a way of fixing that, but don't worry about it for now. Let me show you. The way to reset them to 1, to go to 1, is to say, or make a message box for them. Message, I just did it again. Message set 1, I believe is the code. I have to look real quick. So if I connect that to the counter, every time I click this, it's now going to put the counter back on 1. And actually it is working. Look, you can see it do it. Every time I click it, see the first box goes up, the first bang comes on. Okay? So let's connect that to something else then. And so I can always make sure that my metronomes reset, my counters always reset to 1 when I stop playing this. Okay? So I connected another set 1 over this counter. Let's make a key command for my toggle. Okay? And I'm going to use a very simple thing called key. All right, now I don't remember. I think the space bar is 32, but I don't remember. So I'm going to connect an integer box to the key button, lock it, hit the space bar, and sure enough, it is 32. Okay, so I'm going to then go select 32 to the key, to this object here, right? And then if I connect this to the toggle, now my space bar turns this on and off. Right? So now we need to do one more thing to make sure that those counters reset every time. And that is to trigger these set 1s every time we hit stop. So how would we do that? Any ideas? Every time we hit stop, we want to trigger set 1 to make them go back to the beginning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use another selector. I'm going to say select 0. When the toggle triggers a 0, trigger a bang, T space B, and then connect that to select or set 1. Okay? So what that's doing is every time that toggle hits 0, it's going to trigger a bang of the set 1, which is to return to 1. And there, that's it. Okay? Now, obviously, I need to run another one of these over here for the other metro, right? Or the other counter. So I can collect that and then connect it to the metro like that. And it's a little bit messy here. Let me pull this down a little bit. You can see it better. Okay? So now, when I hit the space bar, let's set the tempo something normal. 90. So when I stop it, when I start again, it's going to go back to the beginning every time. Right? Every time I hit space bar to turn it on, it starts at the beginning. So anyways, this is how you build a little sequencer, right? Now I'm going to leave it to you to figure out how to run reverb and delay to all of these things.
We have to do this.
Yeah. And the easiest way, I'll just tell you, I'm not going to do it though, is that you want to have volume sliders for each instrument down here at the bottom that are sending to the reverb and delay. Okay?